Hey, hey, ho, ho, Tony Abbott has got to go. Hello, I'm discussing Week 12, Action for Change, Part 1, Social Movements. The focus on this video will be on protests, and I will raise the argument, are protests still effective? Reflecting on the current state of affairs and the Liberal government and their cruel budget, I think now it is crucial that movements unite for social justice. Although the protests I have participated in personally, which were the protest against the war in Iraq and a marriage equality rally, these in some ways were unsuccessful because the war in Iraq still went ahead and gay marriage in Australia is still illegal. I still strongly believe that these protests were effective. Francis Fox Piven attests that the gatherings, big chants and signs boost the morale of movement participants. I completely agree. There is something empowering about strength in numbers and the hope that there will be social justice. Sociologist Charles Tilley states that social movements are a major vehicle for ordinary people's participation in public politics. The recent march in May confirms this, as 10,000 people in Sydney alone took to the streets to protest against the Abbott government's budget. Greens leader Christine Milnes said, "This isn't a protest, this is a gut-wrenching response from people who are saying enough is enough." I would like to get a different perspective on this issue and interview Kathy and Lynn. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
So I'd just like to ask the question, do you think that protests are still effective? Lynn?
Well, basically I think protests are still effective insofar as they really reflect the democratic right to disagree with something that is done by the government. So if by effective you mean they achieve change, or by effective you mean it brings it to the public attention, it doesn't really matter. It still is an expression of a basic democratic right, and I wouldn't like to see that lost.
That's a great point, thank you. Kathy, do you still think protests are effective?
Yes, I think they are effective, and I agree with Lynn that they're a basic democratic right and we should never stop protesting as long as they're peaceful. I think you lose the whole meaning of protests if you allow the protests to get out of hand or become violent in any way. I think they must maintain peace at all rallies. I think that's vitally important. But yes, I think they're effective as long as you have an audience. And you must make sure that you have a very good audience. Don't have it unless you've told everyone you're going to be there.
Yes, that's quite true, but often an issue as that our media doesn't always report on protests that take place, such as March in May. Have you participated in protests yourselves? Lynn?
Yes, Hiroshima Day rallies, the moratorium marches, a series of those in the very early 70s. Jack Mundy's support for the Green Belt around the coastal zone, and a few others.
And do you feel that your participation was effective?
Look, I felt like it made, for me, a personal difference, so therefore it's effective, just from a personal point of view. And I felt like I was standing up for something I really believed in, and that I think a lot of other people believed in too. But eventually, when I look back, and you have to look back over the long term, I think it made a difference because we do have a protected coastal zone. Everyone has the right to use any beach. So I believe they have been effective.
That's great, thank you. And Kathy, have you participated?
Only in Reclaim the Night. It was just a peaceful protest marching through Sydney to reclaim the night for women in Sydney. And that's the only one I've actually been in.
And did you feel your participation was effective?
In changing attitudes, possibly not. No, I don't really think it did do a lot to change attitudes. I think you need a lot more than that to change the male perspective of women's rights. But I think through political power, we can certainly change things. Yeah, I think political power is the most powerful thing we have in the country, and we need to tell our politicians and protest to our politicians that we want change.
Yes, I agree. That's a fascinating insight, ladies. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.